Good afternoon. Welcome back from lunch. So one thing that we left outstanding from the morning plenary was to nominate a facilitator for the group on Indigenous peoples. I will propose now to plenary if we can accept the name of Paulina Riquelme from Chile to facilitate that particular group. Is there any objection to that proposal? Seeing no objection, it is so decided. We will provide you with a time and a room for the group to deliberate. So now we return to agenda item 4.9. What did I say? 4.9. 4A. First item. One second. Sorry for that hiccup. I was supposed to recap what we're going to do this afternoon. So as I said, we're going to go first with agenda item 4A, and then we will continue with the regular agenda items. Item 4I, effectiveness evaluation. Item 4K, knowledge management. Item 4L, Mercury and Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and item 5, international cooperation and coordination. After that, I will ask for a report back from the contact group on ASGM, and if possible, the group working on the draft decision text on compounds and the Friends of the President on legal matters. So I see the two co-chairs from the ASGM group, and I will give the floor to either one of you to report on progress from this morning's deliberation. Linroy, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. President. Just to indicate that the contact group on ASGM met at 10:40 until 1 p.m. The mandate of the group was to consider and conclude on the CRP 7 by Brazil, taking into account the inputs from plenary, and to develop a CRP with a draft decision. The contact group decided to give a walkthrough of the CRP 7 and to collect feedback from the room. We did, however, look at the paragraphs of the draft decision that may also require some amendment. So those paragraphs are also included in the walkthrough. We were able to conclude the first reading, and then we started specific discussions and took text edits, with several parties proposing edits to the text, to the draft decision, including the preambular and operative paragraphs. This work has not been concluded within the designated time slot. Also, parties requested time to consider certain elements of the draft decision, and they will come back with proposals for text. So the general mood in the room was quite good and quite constructive. I believe that the differences shouldn't be too hard, hopefully, to overcome, and we will need another time slot to conclude our deliberations, hopefully, a single time slot. We've asked parties as well to discuss informally, such that they may bridge any gaps that may still remain. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Lynn-Roy, for that update and for your hard work. We will allocate you some more time and in a room to continue. So we don't have Eva here from the Friends of the President group. Then we won't have that report now. We will see when she's in the room. Let me just give you one more update before we move into the agenda items for this afternoon. CRP 8 on financial mechanism has been posted on the website. So I will come back to this item later in the afternoon, so we can consider the adoption of this particular draft decision presented in a CRP on financial mechanism. So let's continue with 4I, effectiveness evaluation. Under Article 22 of the Convention, the Conference of the Parties within 6 years of the Convention coming into force, it is to begin its first periodic evaluation of the effectiveness of the Convention. It is important to point out that Article 22 is not an evaluation of any particular party, but of the Convention as a whole. The process for developing the first effectiveness evaluation has been agreed through 2 steps. The first step was at COP4, where the Conference of the Parties in Decision MC4/11 agreed to start the first effectiveness evaluation of the Convention. In this same decision, the COP adopted a framework for the effectiveness evaluation and established an open-ended scientific group. The next step was at COP5 through Decision 5/14, when the Conference of the Parties agreed to consider the outcome of the first effectiveness evaluation at COP7, established the Effectiveness Evaluation Group, and adopted 36 indicators to support the evaluation of effectiveness of the Convention. With this as a background information, I will now turn to the Secretariat to introduce the documents for this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, for this agenda item, we have 1 working document and 2 information documents as listed on the screen. Let me begin with working document 16, which contains a progress report on the development of the first effectiveness evaluation and a draft decision for consideration of the COP. This document 16 includes an overview of the work done since COP5 by the 2 related groups. So first by the Effectiveness Evaluation Group, co-chaired by Lynn-Roy Christian of Antigua and Barbuda and the recently elected Katerina Subkova of Czechia. The group met 7 times online since COP5 and conducting the initial work through 6 subgroups. The open-ended scientific group is co-chaired by Dominique Bali-Pocor of Côte d'Ivoire and the recently elected Sandy Stephan of Canada. The group met once face-to-face in Minamata, Japan in March 2025, and this was hosted by Japan and has met 10 times online since COP5. Annex 2 of the document includes a timeline for the delivery of the first effectiveness evaluation report to COP7. And further to this document, deliberations on this are supported by two agenda items, two additional information documents, Information Document 22, which is the preliminary draft outline of the first effectiveness evaluation report, and Information Document 23, which is an update on the work of the open-ended scientific group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I am grateful to see the progress of both the open-ended scientific group and the effectiveness evaluation group. I wish to thank all co-chairs of these groups for their time and dedication, and I wish to echo the Secretariat's recognition earlier today for their work. The first effectiveness evaluation report will be a very important element of the discussions at COP7 and mark a major milestone for the Convention. Before I open the floor for interventions on the draft decision, I would like to call on the co-chairs of the group to provide some remarks. I give the floor to Dr. Lynn Christian of Antigua and Barbuda, co-chair of the Effectiveness Evaluation Group.
Thank you very much once again, Mr. President. On behalf of my co-chair and I, Ms. Katerina Shetkova, I would like to just offer some perspective on the work of the group thus far. As you indicated in your introduction, there were 36 indicators identified that would support the effectiveness evaluation process. The indicators were divided between both the OESG as well as the EEG. The OESG is considering indicators 1 and 29, and the other 34 indicators are being considered by the effectiveness evaluation group. I wish to indicate that the effectiveness evaluation group would have subdivided its work into subgroups. We have subgroups A through F. Subgroups A through E are concerned with specific articles and indicators and are tasked with providing an assessment of these indicators, and then we would subsequently compile a report which would be due on the 29th of this month, and that will form the basis of our deliberations next year. As is proposed, we have two face-to-face meetings next year, scheduled for January and October, and the substantive work of drafting the effectiveness evaluation report on the basis of INF 22, as has been indicated earlier, will commence. The outline that is provided in INF 22, it's not set in stone, but it's a guidance to how we will develop the report. There are two important inputs that are required for next year's deliberations. One would be the scientific report that is anticipated to be delivered by the OESG, and also the synthesis of the second full national report. So we are appealing to parties to ensure that we keep up a high rate of reporting and to ensure that they provide these reports in a timely manner to facilitate the analysis of the reports such that they may be taken into consideration in the first effectiveness evaluation report. So we ask parties to pay very keen attention to the December deadline for reporting on its second full national report. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Lynn Roy, and thanks also to Katerina from Czechia for co-chairing this group. I now would like to give the floor to Dominique Bali-Pocro, co-chair of the Open-Ended Scientific Group. So the microphone to Côte d'Ivoire.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, honor is mine to speak to you today on behalf of the Open-Ended Science Group, which was established in accordance with decision MC4/11 of the Conference of Parties of the Minamata Convention. Together with my co-chair, initially Terry Keating from the United States of America and subsequently Alexandra Stephen from Canada, we have navigated the group through a demanding intersessional period. Since COP5, we have organized 10 virtual meetings and held our second face-to-face meeting in Minamata, Japan in March this year. Significant progress has been achieved. The group commenced data collection on mercury monitoring, emissions and releases, extending invitation to parties and observers to submit pertinent data sets. The group has also conducted targeted reviews of the scientific literature to acquire additional data sets. With the assistance of the Secretariat and the Biodiversity Research Institute, we have established an online repository to host the submitted and acquired data. 7 dedicated teams have diligently collaborated to compile, analyze, and synthesize the data, identifying existing gaps, and extract valuable lessons. In June 2025, a draft report identifying the data has been submitted and acquired, was made available for party review and was subsequently refined based on the feedback provided. We are in the process of developing a comprehensive scientific report, which is slated for release in December this year for review by parties. This report will address pivotal questions concerning mercury levels, trends, sources, impacts, and the understanding of processes, thereby offering a solid foundation for assessing the Convention's effectiveness. In our capacity as observers, we have actively participated in the 7 sessions of the Effectiveness Evaluation Group, thereby facilitating a strong alignment between scientific insights and policy imperatives. This agenda item on effectiveness evaluation is also an excellent opportunity for science policy interface. I am all here to listen to your expectation and advice to the Open-Ended Science Group. Mr. President, we are steadfast in our commitment to producing a report characterized by transparency, inclusivity, and scientific rigor. We extend our sincere appreciation to all parties and observers for the collaborative efforts and sustained engagement. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that report, and we thank you, Dominique, and we also thank you, your co-chair from Canada. I would now like to open the floor for interventions on the draft decision. The European Union, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states welcome the work carried out by both the Effectiveness Evaluation Group and the Open-Ended Scientific Group. We also welcome the preliminary draft outline of the first effectiveness evaluation report of the Minamata Convention contained in INF 22. The European Union and its member states support the draft decision in document 16, but suggest to change request parties to invite parties in paragraph 3. We're strongly committed to finalize the first effectiveness evaluation at COP7, as it will be the first landmark on the effects of implementing the Convention, and encourage parties to send in their national reporting in time for the use of the Effectiveness Evaluation Group in the preparation of this first effectiveness evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the European Union. Next is Canada.
Thank you, Mr. President. Canada would like to emphasize the importance of the effectiveness evaluation process under the Minamata Convention. Evaluating the effectiveness of the treaty is fundamental to the success and ongoing relevance of our convention. In Canada, mercury undergoes long-range transport from distant sources, and it deposits in our Arctic region in particular, where it adversely impacts the fragile environment and the health of our Indigenous peoples. Canada would like to thank the members of the Effectiveness Evaluation Group and the Open-Ended Scientific Group for their significant efforts to date. As this is the first treaty effectiveness evaluation, these groups are setting a precedent for future assessments by establishing a scientific baseline and by highlighting both achievements and areas for improvement for future cycles. However, Canada is concerned by delays we have observed for both groups in obtaining information to support their work and in conducting their analyses. We also worry that the compressed timeline between COP6 and COP7 in June 2027 may not provide enough time for these groups to complete their work to the highest possible standard. Canada therefore urges all parties to support the effectiveness evaluation process fully and in good faith. This includes the timely and comprehensive provision of all available mercury monitoring data, as well as detailed information on mercury emissions and releases and implementation measures. Such transparency and data sharing are the backbone of a robust and credible effectiveness evaluation. With respect to the second full national reports due by December 2025, we encourage parties to provide detailed and thorough information on their domestic implementation efforts to enable the Effectiveness Evaluation Group and the Open-Ended Scientific Group to perform their critical analyses. Moreover, representatives participating in the EE process need proper support from their parties, regions, and the Secretariat so that they can fulfill their commitments to this process. In closing, Canada thanks all parties for their ongoing cooperation and participation in this process. We look forward to continued progress on the EE in the coming year and to receiving the final results at COP7. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Canada. Now, Switzerland has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Switzerland wishes to express its sincere appreciation to the Open-Ended Scientific Group, in particular to his two co-chairs, Mr. Dominic Pally-Procro from Ivory Coast and Sandy Stephen of Canada, for the substantial work already accomplished, and to all the scientists involved. It is important to recall that the majority of them contributed on a voluntary basis in addition to their professional responsibilities. Switzerland also wishes to sincerely thank all the states, university and research institutions that actively participate in providing the available data on monitoring, emission and releases. These data are essential for developing environmental models and assessing mercury concentration in the environment. We would also like to express our appreciation to the Effectiveness Evaluation Group for their preliminary work and wish them a lot of success and productive biennium to produce the first effectiveness evaluation report. Switzerland looks forward to the final report that will be presented at COP7. We are aware that this report will include many valuable recommendations for improvement and lessons learned, which must be carefully taken into account in the next evaluation cycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will give the floor now to the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States welcomes the progress made by the Effectiveness Evaluation Group and Open-Ended Scientific Group since COP5. Both groups have taken a structured, collaborative approach that we encourage going forward in the work. The United States finds value in the work to refine indicators, improve data collection, and develop methodological guidance in this first effectiveness evaluation. The United States supports ensuring that any methodological refinements or data enhancements remain within the mandate established under Article 22 and the decisions adopted at COP5. The United States supports adoption of the draft decision, and we support the EU's proposed amendment to paragraph 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Very clear. China has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Chinese delegation expresses its appreciation to the Secretariat, the Effectiveness Evaluation Group, and the Scientific Group for the work during the intersessional period. The effectiveness evaluation serves as an important role for the assessing of the implementation of the Convention and provides important guideline for the formulation and execution of the compliance policies. China welcomes the support and the conduct of the first evaluation. We will provide our full national support, and we will provide relevant comments on the emission and release and monitoring. Given that this work involves a substantial amount of data, it is recommended that the two working groups in conducting the evaluation and preparing of the reports fully consider and verify the validity of the data and ensure the comparability of the data of the same types, especially the accuracy of the data and the accuracy of the methodologies. Thank you.
Iran.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we move toward the first effectiveness evaluation report of the Minamata Convention, it is crucial that we base our assessment on accurate, detailed, and comprehensive national reports of parties. These reports form the foundation for a meaningful and credible evaluation process. However, we must recognize that preparing such detailed national reports poses significant challenges for many developing countries due to their limited technical, institutional, and financial capacities. It would be unrealistic to expect that all parties deliver reports at the same level of detail and quality as those from developed countries. Therefore, we wish to emphasize that the urgent need for dedicated financial and technical support to be made available to developing countries. This support will not only ensure the completeness and accuracy of the information collected, but also contribute to a fair and effective overall evaluation of the Convention. In this regard, we would like to highlight the importance of timely action, especially in light of the upcoming meeting in January 2026, which will play a key role in shaping the future implementation of success of the Minamata Convention. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Iran. Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the African region, the region acknowledges the work and draft reports of the open-ended scientific work group and thanks them for their great work. This important work will form the basis of what the Effectiveness Evaluation Group will require to establish the conventions working towards protecting human health and the environment from anthropogenic emissions and releases of mercury and mercury compounds. The methodology as outlined in Part 2 of UNEP/MC/COP.6/INF/22 and Part 3 of the same provide an article-by-article and indicator-by-indicator analysis of the evaluation of the effectiveness of the Convention under the 10 subgroupings indicated as modified by the Effectiveness Evaluation Group. The African region calls for support towards the establishment of baseline data as part of the review process, as well as an enhanced cooperation. The baseline data will reveal any existing data gaps and enable the region to build the required capacities to address them. The African group stands ready to make inputs and ensure that its content is well represented. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to the Africa region. Next is the Maldives.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Moody's welcomes the progress report on the development of the first effectiveness evaluation of the Minamata Convention as presented in document 16. We commend the extensive work of both the effectiveness evaluation group and the open-ended scientific group. In particular, their efforts to compile and analyze global data on mercury emissions, releases, and environmental monitoring. As a small island developing state, the Maldives is aware of the transboundary nature of mercury pollution. While our own emissions are minimal, we remain highly vulnerable to the impacts of global mercury contamination, particularly the bioaccumulation of mercury in marine species, which poses serious risks to our food security, public health, and the biodiversity. However, we also must acknowledge a critical reality as pointed out by the African group and Iran. The developing countries often lack the technical infrastructure and the human capacity and the financial resources to carry out sustained and comprehensive mercury monitoring, especially in areas such as biota and human biomonitoring, which are crucial for understanding real-world exposure and risk. We therefore urge the Convention to prioritize capacity building and targeted technical assistance for developing countries and SIDS and other resource-constrained parties. We also emphasize that true global effectiveness will only be achieved if all regions, including the vulnerable SIDS and other developing countries, are able to participate fully, equitably, and meaningfully in the monitoring and assessment of mercury's impact. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The Maldives, next in line is Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sri Lanka appreciates the Secretariat's efforts and the progress made by the Effectiveness Evaluation Group and the Open-Ended Scientific Group in advancing the first effectiveness evaluation of the Minamata Convention. We recognize that this process is essential to assess how far we have come in achieving the Convention's objective of protecting human health and the environment from anthropogenic emissions and releases of mercury. The development of a robust and science-based evaluation framework will help identify gaps, strengthen implementation, and guide future policy and technical support to the parties. Sri Lanka acknowledges the inclusive approach taken by the groups in engaging parties and stakeholders in this process. We encourage the contribution of this participatory approach to ensure that the evaluation reflects the diversity of national circumstances and challenges. We also recognize the importance of ensuring adequate financial and technical assistance to support further science-based data collection and national reporting, as these are critical components of an effectiveness evaluation. Sri Lanka wishes to complete the first effectiveness evaluation and stands ready to contribute constructively to the process. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Sri Lanka, that concludes the intervention by parties. Then we move on to observers. We have WHO.
Thank you, Mr. President. The World Health Organization is grateful for the opportunity to share its appreciation of the work of the open-ended scientific and effectiveness evaluation groups. The effectiveness evaluation is crucial for an evidence-based assessment of progress towards achieving the Convention goal to protect human health and the environment from exposure to mercury. The trends of mercury concentrations in humans, as measured in human biomonitoring studies, are a valuable indicator of this progress. To support use of human biomonitoring for exposure and risk assessment, WHO, in close cooperation with its collaborating centres, has developed recommendations covering the whole cycle of the human biomonitoring surveys, from planning to evaluation of results, while applying the highest ethical standards. We provide continuous support to countries to strengthen national expertise and building capacity in human biomonitoring and integrating biomonitoring into national health surveillance systems. However, there are many gaps that should be addressed as soon as possible. A number of countries face limited technical capacity and insufficient funding, and the gaps in data coverage are still high. The World Health Assembly Resolution 7617 from 2023 on the health impacts of chemicals urges member states to invest in national human biomonitoring programs to generate reliable data on exposure and risk assessment, as well as to evaluate the effectiveness of risk reduction measures. Strengthening health information systems and ensuring ethical, gender-sensitive approaches to data collection are essential. WHO reaffirms its commitment to supporting parties in generating high-quality biomonitoring data and translating science into action. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. We have now the Inuit Circumpolar Council.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Herb Nekimayak, and I'm President of the Inuit Circumpolar Council of Canada. The Inuit Circumpolar Council advocates on behalf of around 180,000 Inuit living in the Arctic. Mr. President, as I mentioned earlier today, Indigenous peoples are not stakeholders, but we are rights holders and have the right to self-determination, also with regards to the research going on in our homelands. Inuit have been involved in development of the Minamata Convention from the very beginning stages, and the Arctic is mentioned as a region that is particularly vulnerable in the preamble of the convention. We are still net recipients of elevated mercury concentrations in some of our country foods, which are vital to our health and well-being. We have extensive experience in monitoring contaminants in our homelands. For example, within the Northern Contaminants Program in Canada, the Arctic Monitoring Assessment Program, as well as subnational monitoring programs in all of our regions. These programs recognize that Indigenous peoples need to be involved in all stages of research, including the management of the programs. Research needs to be based not only on science, but also our Indigenous knowledge, which provides crucial information about the ecosystem and understanding of the mercury exposure in our traditional country foods. An example for an extensive holistic monitoring program is Fisheries Joint Management Committee's 50 years of monitoring of beluga whales in the Inuvialuit Settlement region, the longest-standing data set on the species in the world, which is providing information for health, mercury and other contaminants, climate change, and biodiversity impacts. This process brings recommendations for sound policy development. We've been providing a case study on this for the monitoring report of the Open-Ended Science Group, and we will continue to provide our expertise and experiences moving forward in the implementation of the Minamata Convention. Mr. President, currently the Minamata Convention is missing a comprehensive monitoring framework, which would allow for easy flow of information from these monitoring sources to assist the implementation of the treaty. This needs to be put in place and should also take into account information from the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework to inform the effectiveness of the Minamata Convention. Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that intervention. And then we have Fundación Gaia Amazonas.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, President. I'm speaking on behalf of the Gaia Amazonas Foundation and the Amazonian Alliance for phasing out the effects of mercury in the region. The Amazon contains many indigenous peoples, 10% of the world's biodiversity, and yet has been severely affected by releases of mercury. We have over 13,000 acres of land which have released a great deal of mercury pollutant. This has an effect on species which live in the rivers, such as freshwater dolphins and birds that fish from the river. And this means that severe threat is now in place to the food systems of indigenous peoples. The Minamata Convention could be more effective if it set up an additional subgroup, an advisory subgroup, which would report on the effects of mercury releases and dumping in highly diverse regions. This should involve academics, experts, representatives of indigenous peoples, and other rights holders who are interested in understanding and preventing the impact of mercury. We would also suggest that this group work together with the evaluation group to review the indicators on mercury release from gold mining and on contaminated sites. Furthermore, Article 16 on health-related aspects, Article 17 on the exchange of information, Article 18 on public awareness building, and 19 on investigation and monitoring should also be covered. This structure would be very helpful in identifying our shared challenges and effective solutions to the problem of mercury pollution. Lastly, States Party need to help facilitate the work of the group we are suggesting. For example, if official data is not provided on the environmental effects of mercury on indigenous peoples, then indigenous peoples become inaudible and invisible, and they won't be able to help to take effective solutions to solve the problem. Thank you. Thank you very much. IPEN, please.
رئيس أتحدث بالنيابة عن شبكة IPEN العضو في الفريق العلمي مفتوح العضوية.
Thank you, President. I am speaking on behalf of IPEN. We would like to offer our contribution to the work being done to evaluate the effectiveness of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Results so far achieved show that if we take a methodological approach based on scientific data covering trade in and supply of mercury, we will be taking the correct approach. We support that. We also support the development of reports in accordance with Article 7. Results achieved so far, however, also show that despite attempts to regulate trade in mercury, we still have a small-scale artisanal gold mining which is using mercury even now and still causing problems. We need to monitor and track trade in mercury because it's clear that mercury emissions are not reducing and that pollution with mercury is going to continue in the next few years if we don't become more effective. Radical measures need to be taken to bring an end particularly to trafficking in mercury. At the same time, let us say that the data available at the moment tends to focus more on developed countries. We need more data from developing countries as well, especially from those regions which still have artisanal and small-scale gold mining going on. In conclusion, we should like to reiterate our support to the draft decision and to the efforts which have been put in thus far to tackle this issue and to make the Minamata Convention a more effective tool in protecting the health of individuals and of the environment. Thank you.
The floor is for Zero Mercury.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Eva Krümmel from the Inuit Circumpolar Council, speaking on behalf of the Zero Mercury Working Group. We welcome the draft decision as per document MC/COP6/16. However, as an observer and active participant in both the Open-Ended Scientific Group and the Effectiveness Evaluation Group, we note the missing framework, funding and capacity, and limited availability of data and information to properly assess the effectiveness of the Convention. Critical information is still missing, including emission inventories. This challenge has been highlighted in the Open-Ended Scientific Group, where in several areas reliance on regional case studies has been necessary. While case studies are useful, they are not an ideal substitute to address data gaps, which also impacts the accuracy of models. Furthermore, the absence of standardized format for data submission across parties creates difficulties in analysis, and some countries continue to face capacity constraints. We recommend that the Secretariat works closely with the parties and supports experts, including indigenous peoples, to harmonize data collection and methodologies and processes that also support indigenous-led monitoring. As such, we are happy to see the CRP1 expanding the decision to include the participation of indigenous peoples and additions on mercury monitoring. For regions where data are missing, collaboration needs to be strengthened with regions that have already developed methodologies, including indigenous co-led monitoring programs and activities, for example, the Canadian Northern Contaminants Program. This will ensure the availability of information, but also contribute to the technology transfer among parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the interventions. Let me summarize, as I've been doing throughout this week. So I heard parties expressing appreciation to those involved in developing the first effectiveness evaluation report, a robust evaluation will be an important contribution to our work in 2 years' time. Thank you also for presenting your specific views on the progress achieved so far. The Effectiveness Evaluation Group, as well as the Open-Ended Science Group, will need to deliver in a short time period, and our scientific community has a lot of work ahead of it. So, to move forward, very simple, we heard only one amendment by the European Union, and then the same amendment to the draft decision was supported by the US, and that is to change the verb in paragraph 3 of the draft decision. The draft decision now reads 3 requests parties to submit, and the proposed amendment is to change requests for invites. So it will read OP3 invites parties to submit. If we can agree to that change, then we can propose the adoption of this draft decision in document 16. Do we have any objections to change the verb requests for invites? I see no objection. Guinea, you want the floor?
Yeah. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President. Like some other delegations have said, we're very grateful also to Switzerland for her hospitality, and thank you to the Secretariat for the excellent organization of the meeting. Now, since the text is already being amended, I wonder if my delegation could just make one point. We think inviting actually contains a touch more obligation. I don't know whether the change we're making is actually that good an idea. We'd like to have a little clarification on the nuances in the terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Guinea, for that intervention. Once again, I don't know how to raise up the volume when the interpreter is interpreting into English. It's the volume, I cannot set the volume here, and the volume is very long. Intervention, though, and what I gather is you're asking a question of the nuance between the term requests and invites. My question back to you is, who are you asking this question to? Guinea?
Oui.
Yes, thank you, President. Well, the question is addressed to whoever it was who actually requested the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guinea. So that was clear to me. So I will give the floor to the European Union?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yes, it was our suggestion to change request to invite, and it is more because it is, in our view, more appropriate language to invite parties because we cannot request them to do so. So it's not as strong as request, but more an invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Guinea, with that explanation given by the European Union, would you accept the change so we can adopt the decision? You have the floor, sir.
Oui, but
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we can accept, and we'll have a word with the European Union so as to try and better understand why they're making this change or requesting that the change be made. Thank you. Chairman, can you hear the English booth interpreter now? We think, I am right in front of the microphone, we think perhaps it's your headphones. We're not sure. You're welcome.
So let me propose to the plenary the adoption of the draft decision contained in document 16 with the amendment of paragraph 3 replacing the word requests for invites. Can we adopt this decision? I see no objection. This decision is adopted. Thank you very much. ¿No hay aplausos? ¿No?
No applause?
Muchas gracias. So I'll change headphones. Probably with this ones I will hear better.
Is that any better, Chairman? Can you hear me now?
Item 4K, knowledge management. Let me recall that COP5 welcomed with appreciation the digital strategy for the Secretariat to guide its work in the upcoming years in leveraging technology and managing knowledge effectively to support the implementation of the Convention. COP5 also agreed that the implementation of the strategy would begin with priority activities during the biennium 24-25. I invite the Secretariat to introduce the documents for this agenda item.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. I will follow in English, okay, no worries. Document 19 on knowledge management and digitalization reports on the progress made in implementing the digital strategy during the 2024-2025 biennium, as mandated by decision MC16. Some of the key achievements include the enhancements to the convention website, like the new focus areas and dynamic party profiles, improvements to the national reporting tool now used for the second full reporting cycle, with the amendments to the reporting format adopted at COP5, and new features to enhance the overall user experience. The development of dashboards for reporting data, the JEF and SIP projects have strengthened transparency and visibility of results by enabling dynamic data-driven insights into national actions and project impact. Also expanded digital services for COP meetings with full multilingual live streaming, as you can see now, in the 6 UN languages. And finally, strengthened collaboration with Informia, the VRS conventions, and the Global Mercury Partnership. Looking ahead, the Secretariat plans to expand and maintain efforts by developing the Minamata Convention Exchange Platform, explained and detailed in the document INF 26. Also expanding digital repositories, including thematic hubs such as on Mercury-added products, further digitizing party submissions and registers, and exploring responsible applications of artificial intelligence in line with UN guidance. The proposed Minamata Convention Exchange Platform, detailed in the document INF 26, is directly linked to Article 17 on information exchange, which defines the role of the Secretariat in facilitating structured, transparent, and accessible knowledge flows among parties and stakeholders. This platform will provide a centralized access to scientific, technical, legal, and policy information on mercury and mercury compounds, enable parties and stakeholders to share practices, case studies, and lessons learned, support capacity building through e-learning, Minamata Online, and digital repositories, operate under principles of transparency, inclusiveness, interoperability, credibility, and responsible innovation, and be scalable and cost-efficient, developing phase, and aligned with the existing infrastructures. In summary, this Minamata Convention Exchange Platform is not conceived as a new website, but an integrated component of the Convention's existing digital ecosystem. It will build on the same data architecture that supports both the official website and the online reporting tool, ensuring efficient use of resources, seamless interoperability with national reports and other data, and long-term sustainability, reinforcing the website as the central hub for the Convention's knowledge. Finally, COP Document 19 sets out a draft decision on the matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Muchas gracias, Ana.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for that introduction of the document to the room. I'd now like to hear from the room on this agenda item, including the draft decision, which is included in document 19.
Se cede la palabra.
The floor is open.
La Unión Europea.
European Union is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states would like to express our appreciation for the commendable effort by the Minamata Secretariat in advancing knowledge management and digitalization since the Convention entered into force, including during the biennium 2024-25. These initiatives are instrumental in enhancing the effectiveness and implementation of the Convention. The European Union and its member states support encouraging the Secretariat to continue cooperation and coordination activities with the Global Mercury Partnership, but suggest to include language to clarify that these activities will be carried out subject to the availability of resources in paragraph 5 of the draft decision. The European Union and its member states welcome the development of the Minamata Exchange Platform under the digital strategy and suggest to include possible prioritization of elements under the digital strategy in the contact group on program of work and budget if needed. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a la Unión Europea.
Thank you very much, European Union. I now give the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States is grateful to the Secretariat for preparing this draft decision on knowledge management. We would like to see limited edits reflected in operative paragraphs 2 and 4 and have submitted these proposed changes in writing to the Secretariat earlier today. We would like to read those out here with your permission.
Can we do that when we put the decision for adoption? Let's see if we have any other interventions, and then we can see the way forward. If we don't see enough amendments, then I will go back to you so you can read them out.
Okay, thank you. And also, we are happy to support the EU's proposed change, and overall, the U.S. looks forward to supporting the adoption of this draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to take the floor? We have no more requests for the floor. So I guess the microphone is back to you, the United States. And so just remind the plenary that the European Union had only one amendment in paragraph 5 of the decision to include the phrase subject to the availability of resources, I believe. And now I'll give the floor to you to read out those amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On paragraph 2, the United States would like to add to the end of the paragraph, instead of a period, comma, including the potential for the use of artificial intelligence. And that is all in that paragraph. This additional language aligns with the AI training activity of the digital strategy as indicated on page 50 of INF document 38, Program of Work and Budget Fact Sheets. The U.S. thinks AI is a critical tool to contemplate as we continue to seek out avenues for resource efficiency. On paragraph 4, the United States would like to add the word convention between Minamata and exchange to maintain naming consistency across other references in UNEP MC COP.6/19 and INF 26. Then, following the word platform, we would like to add as a cost-effective and transparent vehicle. This language provides an opportunity to reflect the COP's desire to seek out avenues to yield additional resource efficiencies and transparency as it undertakes any new work, particularly within the scope of knowledge management. Then, finally, following the word for, we propose deletion of the purpose of to simplify the phrasing. With these limited text changes, and again, our support for the EU's proposed amendment, the U.S. is pleased to support this draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you, the United States. Can I go back to the EU, please? So back to the EU, Denmark. Denmark. I'm calling on you. I'm calling on you to let me know where in the paragraph 5 you want to insert the phrase into commas.
Sorry, Mr. President. We were trying also to capture the proposed changes from the United States. In paragraph 5, we would suggest the paragraph to read, encourages the Secretariat to, comma, subject to the availability of resources, comma, continue cooperation and coordination activities.
Thank you. So I will propose now to go amendment by amendment with plenary. So please look at draft decision MC 6/blank contained in document 19. We'll go to operational paragraph 2. Operational paragraph 2 will read, request the Secretariat to continue the implementation of the digital strategy in accordance with the Program of Work and Budget for the Minamata Convention on Mercury for the biennium 2026-2027 and to prioritize relevant activities for progressive advancement of the strategy in future bienniums, comma, including the potential for the use of artificial intelligence. Can we agree to that amended paragraph? Thank you very much. Let's go to paragraph 4. So paragraph 4, as amended by the United States, will read, agrees to support the development of the Minamata Convention exchange platform as a cost-effective and transparent vehicle for information exchange pursuant to Articles 17 and 24 of the Convention, comma, subject to the availability of resources. Can we agree to that paragraph as amended? Thank you. And now we move to Operational 5. Operational 5 will read, encourages the Secretariat to, comma, subject to the availability of resources, comma, continue cooperation and coordination activities with the Global Mercury Partnership to advance shared knowledge initiatives concerning Mercury-related issues, including the joint development of data products, communication tools, and knowledge platforms, while ensuring complementarity. Can we accept that paragraph as amended? I see no objection. Can we adopt this draft decision contained in document 19 as amended? I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you very much. Let's proceed to item 4L, Mercury and Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. I think I need some water. Let's turn to the Secretariat to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Decision 517, the Secretariat prepared document 20 containing a roadmap for enhancing co-benefits from implementation of the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. The roadmap includes an overview of activities undertaken in response to Decision 517 and the proposed roadmap. The key pillars of the roadmap include contribution to the monitoring framework of the Global Biodiversity Framework, inclusion of mercury reduction targets and actions in national biodiversity strategies and action plans, and national biodiversity targets that are required under the Convention on Biological Diversity, and creation of an enabling environment for enhanced co-benefits, as well as indicators for measuring progress in implementing the roadmap. In Decision 517, parties were encouraged, and other governments and local and subnational governments, as well as relevant organizations and stakeholders as appropriate, were invited to reflect national mercury reduction and control targets in the revised or updated national biodiversity strategies and action plans. The Secretariat was requested to support parties in sharing their experience and to compile and synthesize the information gathered. The Secretariat has worked with the Nature Conservancy to develop information document 27, a technical document to facilitate integration of actions to reduce mercury pollution from artisanal and small-scale gold mining into such national biodiversity strategies and action plans. We are grateful to the Netherlands for funding this work. And finally, information document 41 includes key decisions of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity relevant to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The COP may wish to consider the draft decision contained in Annex 1 to document 20 and adopt a decision on the roadmap for enhancing co-benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary. Now the floor is open for interventions on this particular issue. Parties first. The European Union.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states would like to commend the efforts of the Minamata Secretariat for preparing the roadmap on how the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework can support and complement each other in a mutually reinforcing manner. Such collaboration is essential for achieving our shared goals. We welcome the roadmap as it is laying out important steps in the fight against biodiversity loss and pollution. The European Union and its member states appreciate the work by the Secretariat on integrating actions to reduce mercury pollution into the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We support the proposed draft decision, but would like to propose one smaller amendment to paragraph 2 in order to make the text more simple. We propose to delete the listing of all the different stakeholders, so paragraph 2 more simply states, encourages parties and other relevant stakeholders as appropriate to undertake the actions suggested in the roadmap. We have sent this proposal for amendment in writing to the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, European Union. We have Japan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Japan welcomes and supports the draft decision on the roadmap for enhancing the co-benefit from the implementation of the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Diversity Frameworks. We believe that this roadmap provides a valuable framework to strengthen the synergies and maximize the co-benefit between the chemical management and biodiversity conservation. Japan has also been leading the international efforts to promote the synergy, including the UN resolution on synergy adopted at UN 6 and the follow-up resolution submitted for UN 7. Domestically, we have launched the project Advancing Nature Positive through the chemical management, which brings together experts to identify the cross-cutting issues, such as the potential effect of environmental contamination on vulnerable species, and the need for better indicator to assess links between the pollution and biodiversity, and the importance of engaging civil society to help promote these efforts at the community level. Through this process, the group seeks to develop the integrated actions. Building on this initiative, Japan is committed to working in close cooperation with other parties in line with this roadmap to ensure that our collective actions generate tangible benefits for both human health and biodiversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Japan. Muchas gracias. Ahora...
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Argentina. Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Republic of Argentina is grateful for the document UNEP/MC/COP6/20 that contains the draft strategy for linking the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Argentina recognizes the value of promoting synergies between multilateral environmental agreements as long as they are in compliance with the mandates of each convention. We also believe it is necessary that we maintain caution with respect to this process, bearing in mind that implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework is done through national biodiversity strategies, which are drafted and approved of by countries. In this connection, we underscore the importance of avoiding any duplication of efforts or any additional reporting burdens and implementation burdens for parties, especially for developing countries who are dealing with human resource, technological and financial constraints. And it's for this reason that we would underscore that the proposed coordination should be voluntary and should be promoted at the national level and subject to available resources. And flexibility should be afforded to reflect the priorities, circumstances, and political frameworks of each country. And it must also ensure full respect for national sovereignty in the formulation and implementation of public policies. And it's for this reason that we would like to propose an amendment to the draft decision, which we would be happy to hand to the Secretariat in writing or in any other format that you deem necessary or more fitting. Thank you. Thank you very much, Argentina. And I'll give the floor to Colombia. Thank you, President. Colombia wishes to begin by expressing our gratitude to the Secretariat for the progress made in knowledge management and cooperation across sectors, as well as the presentation of the roadmap to enhance co-benefits from implementing the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We believe it is positive, this initiative. It is an important step towards promoting consistency between international instruments dealing with chemicals, biodiversity and such like, and ensuring that reducing mercury will help protect the environment and ecosystems of our communities. We therefore wish to underscore the need to ensure that the roadmap's implementation be matched with technical assistance, the required financing, especially for developing countries. This is the only way that we can reflect the global objectives into national realities, and we need effective access to financing, and we need to promote integrated projects that will deal with mercury pollution, loss of biodiversity, and impact on human environments. Therefore, Article 16 of the Convention regarding the exchange of scientific, economic, legal, and other information on mercury and its compounds. In this respect, we think there's an urgent need to share information on how mercury pollution is affecting natural water sources. We therefore believe it's essential that we step up monitoring in developing countries, especially in those that have strategic environmental areas that are affected by illegal mining and as far as mercury is concerned. Thank you.
Colombia.
Thank you, Colombia.
Floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Uganda welcomes the present note on the roadmap for enhancing co-benefits from implementation of the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Uganda applauds donors, UNEP and the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention on Mercury for supporting the development of a technical support document on integrating action to reduce mercury pollution from artisanal and small-scale gold mining into national biodiversity strategies and action plans aligned with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Uganda, in a special way, applauds UNEP and the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention on Mercury for developing relevant mercury indicators on the same. Mr. President, having in place related mercury indicators in the absence of financial resources and capacity to collect data, especially at the national level, on mercury pollution and effectiveness of relevant measures still at the national level may not effectively enhance co-benefits from implementation of the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Mr. President, therefore, Uganda requests the COP to call upon the GEF to provide financial resources and capacity building to parties to periodically collect and update baseline data on mercury pollution and assess the effectiveness of country measures or on the activities undertaken in the same line in order to integrate them in the NBSAP implementation, monitoring, and related reporting in line with the KMGBF. Mr. President, pollution indicators in majority of the NBSAPs for parties here have been more tilted to pesticide assessments as opposed to mercury assessments. Uganda therefore requests the COP to call upon the GEF to provide financial resources covering guidance on integrating implementation, including reporting on activities by the Rio and Chemicals and Waste MEA's focal point. Therefore, we look forward to strengthening the implementation of the Minamata Convention on mercury together with KMGBF, with the main focus of having targeted GEF financing that calls for synergies between the various MEAs when it comes to implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Uganda. I give the floor to Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sri Lanka welcomes the report of the Secretariat and commends the initiative to strengthen the linkage between the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We recognize that mercury pollution
Chair's mic is open.
and threat to biodiversity, ecosystem, and food security, particularly through bioaccumulation in aquatic species and contamination of critical habitats. Sri Lanka fully supported the development of roadmap to enhance the core benefit of implementing both framework by 2030. Integrating mercury management within biodiversity conservation planning can yield multiple benefits, protecting ecosystems, improving human health, and contributing to the achievement of several targets under the Global Biodiversity Framework. As a biodiversity-rich island nation, Sri Lanka attaches high importance of reducing mercury emissions and releases from key sectors such as waste management, healthcare, and energy. We believe that national strategies under the Minamata Convention should be aligned with ecosystem-based approach that promote restoration and sustainable use of biodiversity. Further, in line with the draft National Target 7 of the Global Biodiversity Framework, Sri Lanka is planning to take steps to minimize and eventually eliminate mercury releases to the environment through hazardous waste pollution management. We also emphasize the need of capacity building and technology transfer support to enable developing countries to implementing integrated actions effectively. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sri Lanka. Now the floor is to Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Brazil welcomes the roadmap as a useful tool to enhance coherence between the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, building on ongoing efforts to strengthen synergies across multilateral environmental agreements while fully respecting their distinctive mandates. We appreciate its emphasis on shared scientific assessment, knowledge exchange, and mobilization of international financial resources, including through the GEF and other relevant funds, which can also help support national efforts to reduce mercury pollution, protect biodiversity, and safeguard vulnerable communities. Brazil also values the recognition of the need for national-level coordination and engagement of diverse stakeholders, particularly in areas such as monitoring, research and data sharing, and capacity building in developing countries. At the same time, as expressed by our distinguished colleagues from Argentina, Brazil also underlines the importance of ensuring that the roadmap remains consistent with the voluntary nature of cooperation across agreements and does not generate additional reporting or implementation burdens for parties, especially developing countries. References to national biodiversity strategies and plans, indicators, and monitoring processes should preserve flexibility for national circumstances, priorities, and policy frameworks. Brazil also considers it essential to maintain clear boundaries between the mandates of each convention, while continuing to promote mutually beneficial cooperation. The roadmap should therefore underline that any actions undertaken are country-driven, subject to available resources and supportive of national sovereignty in the formulation and implementation of public policies. We have some amendments that we would like to propose. For instance, in what I believe it is a OP2, which encourages parties, we would like to have an amendment that states that these activities are carried out on a voluntary basis consistent with national priorities, circumstances and capacities and under the leadership of national governments. And we have other minor amendment suggestions to other paragraphs that we will be very happy to send in writing. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. President. We highly appreciate the Secretariat for its commendable efforts in fostering enhanced coordination between the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. This effort reflects our shared commitment to advancing global environmental goals through synergy and collaboration. Indonesia supports the development of a roadmap aimed at enhancing the co-benefits derived from the implementation of both the convention and the framework. Such a framework will serve as a vital tool to align our collective effort in addressing mercury pollution while safeguarding biodiversity, thereby contributing to sustainable development worldwide. At the national level, Indonesia is fully committed to integrating mercury reduction and elimination target to indicator into our Indonesian biodiversity strategy and action plan. Through robust coordination and strategic alignment, we aim to ensure that our national policies contribute meaningfully to the objective of both frameworks. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Indonesia. Chile tiene la palabra.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, President. Chile is grateful for the work which has been done by the Secretariat on the inputs to apply the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework in a way that they complement each other. Chile has been enacting her own national biodiversity plan, which follows the recommendations made in the roadmap in order to contribute to better integration of and consistency between measures to protect and promote biodiversity and protect it from mercury pollution. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Chile. That concludes statements made by States Party, and I now turn the floor to the Women's Caucus.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the Women's Caucus for Minamata on mercury. Mercury pollution continues to threaten not only human health, but also the integrity of biodiversity and ecosystems worldwide. As a persistent and bioaccumulative pollutant, mercury moves across water, air, and soil, entering food webs and undermining the resilience of species and habitats. These ecological disruptions directly impact the communities, and especially the women whose daily lives and livelihoods depend on healthy ecosystems. As primary providers of food and care, women are also among the first to experience the consequences of biodiversity loss caused by mercury contamination. Complementing INF 27, we also did a review of the NBSAPs, and until July 2025, the number of countries with at least one national target on gender equality were 64 that were reflected in the NBSAPs. According to the CBD's online reporting tool, that count is up to 119 as of today. Implementing the Minamata Convention in synergy with the KMGBF offers a vital opportunity to achieve co-benefits for health, biodiversity, and gender equality, an opportunity to build complementarity and coordinated effort that cannot be missed. As such, we have some recommendations for the consideration of parties. Integrate gender and biodiversity considerations into national action plans and reporting in coordination. We would also like to encourage joint programming and advanced gender frameworks across chemical and biodiversity conventions aligning to its projects and plans. Enhance coordination between Minamata and CBD focal points, including the gender focal points, to ensure coherent policies and shared data. Mobilize financial and technical resources to build capacities of parties and stakeholders. And we also encourage parties to mobilize financial and technical resources to support governments and local and subnational governments, as well as indigenous peoples, local communities, and other relevant stakeholders, including women, children, and youth as appropriate, to undertake the actions suggested in the roadmap. In ending, addressing mercury pollution through a gender-responsive and biodiversity approach will not only be a step towards the objectives of the Minamata Convention to protect the human health and the environment from the anthropogenic emissions and release of mercury and mercury compound, but also contribute to the broader global vision of living in harmony with nature, with leaving no one behind. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to the Women's Caucus. Now I'll give the floor to Frankfurt Zoological Society.
Gracias, señor. Thank you, President. I'm speaking on behalf of the Frankfurt Zoological Society and the Alliance for the Mitigation of the Effects of Illegal Mining of Gold in the Amazon. In Colombia and in our Amazonian neighbors, we have illegal groups exploiting alluvial gold, mainly in protected areas, but also in indigenous territories and other areas of strategic importance, where mining is allegedly prohibited. All these operations make indiscriminate use of mercury which has come into the country illegally. We're talking about criminal networks which have been getting stronger. They've more or less seized control of huge swathes of territory which until a very short time ago were being preserved so as to protect their biodiversity and help them provide ecosystemic services, mainly to indigenous peoples. All of us depend on that as indigenous peoples. However, now those territories and the various indigenous peoples living on them, particularly those who live cut off deliberately from the rest of the world, are being degraded and threatened. These illegal operations, which we can monitor, aren't small scale or artisanal. On the contrary, they're highly polluting and dangerous. The action they are taking is having an effect on rights which are defended by various conventions, such as the Escazú Agreement, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and of course the Minamata Convention. Better coordination on the ground between those conventions and agreement is essential. In the roadmap to strengthen collaboration between Kunming-Montreal and the Minamata Convention, we as a civil society organization offer our support to the open-ended scientific group established by decision MC 411, and we'd like to see it do the following things. First of all, provide reliable information on the impact of mercury pollution on biodiversity and vulnerable communities, especially in the Amazon. Secondly, provide indicators on biodiversity and health, which include aspects which have not yet been included and which demonstrate more specifically whether or not the convention is being effective for the environment or not. Thirdly, strengthen the 3 key pillars of the roadmap, especially 2 on the inclusion of goals and actions to reduce mercury through national biodiversity plans and strategies. 4, strengthen interoperable traceability systems with early alert systems attached so as to facilitate the effective taking of decisions as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mercury has been used to extract gold for centuries. In the past 50 years, we have seen proliferation of ASGM using mercury in biodiversity-rich areas. Elemental mercury is transferred into a more toxic and persistent organic form through a methylation process, which occurs with the assistance of bacteria primarily found in wet environments. Methyl mercury then can accumulate within the food web, leading to biomagnification and widespread contamination of ecosystems. IPEN welcomes the draft roadmap, including possible actions and indicators to support the co-benefits arising from implementing the Minamata Convention and Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. In particular, IPEN supports the suggested effectiveness evaluation indicator 1, levels and trends of mercury and mercury compounds in the environment and in humans due to anthropogenic emissions and releases, and indicator 29, mercury levels in vulnerable human populations, which could also serve as additional indicators under Target 7 of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Possible actions of the draft roadmap include specific reports on global mercury levels for the Secretariat to present at the 17th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. The draft decision encourages parties with ASEAN national action plans to integrate action to reduce mercury pollution from artisanal and small-scale gold mining into national biodiversity strategies and action plans aligned with the Kunming-Montreal GBF. This will enhance the co-benefits from implementing the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework by 2030. So IPEN supports the draft decision integrating aspects of Mercury Treaty and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. India.
Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate the intersessional work undertaken by the Minamata Secretariat and the draft roadmap prepared for enhancing co-benefits for implementation of the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework by 2030. The draft roadmap prepared by the Secretariat encourages parties to undertake activities in the roadmap, inter alia suggests to revise National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan as part of the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework by 2030 under Convention of Biodiversity. It also suggests to incorporate mercury reduction targets and to have indicator for mercury reduction targets. They are either through developing the same by COP of CBD, or countries may propose to a complementary indicator in their NBSAP. Mr. President, the roadmap, if adopted, mandates revision of NBSAP under CBD through a decision adopted by COP of Minamata Convention, which is an interlinking of 2 MEAs and overlapping would also amount to overlapping with the jurisdiction of another convention, that is CBD. We need to maintain a fine balance, and also we need to ensure that while doing so, the principles of the respective conventions are also recognized and honored. India welcomes the proposal to request Secretariat of CBD to develop additional indicators for reduction of pollution to levels that are not harmful to biodiversity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, summarizing the interventions, I think we have a good support for the document, the draft decision contained in Annex 1 of Document 20. So I would like to request the EU, I think the EU already did send the amendments to the Secretariat, Argentina, Brazil. I don't remember exactly if Colombia wanted to amend anything. Do you have an amendment? I don't think you have an amendment, no. So it was the European Union, Argentina, Brazil, that had amendments to this particular draft decision. Please send it to the Secretariat. We will incorporate those those amendments in the draft decision, and we will prepare a new CRP that will be uploaded to the website. Is that a good way forward? Okay, so we will suspend the consideration of this agenda item. We will come back and open this when you all have seen the new uploaded CRP. Thank you. We're moving to agenda item 5, international cooperation and coordination. The Secretariat has prepared 2 working documents on this agenda item. Document 21 on international cooperation and coordination, and Document 22 on cooperation and coordination between the Secretariats of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, and 2 draft decisions. Information documents 28 to 35 contain information on activities carried out by various organizations and bodies under their respective mandates, which are relevant to the Minamata Convention on Mercury as shown on the screen. There we go. I invite the Secretariat to introduce document 22.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document 22 on cooperation and coordination between the Secretariats of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions provides an update on the cooperation between the 2 secretariats on relevant administrative, programmatic, technical, and technical assistance issues and contains a draft decision. The note is complemented by a joint report prepared by the Secretariats of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions and of the Minamata Convention on cooperation and coordination between the Secretariats in areas of mutual interest. It's set out in information document 29. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I will invite you again to introduce document 21.
Thank you very much. Information on activities undertaken by the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention to cooperate and coordinate with other entities, particularly in the chemicals and waste cluster, is presented in information document 28. The report prepared by the Secretariat covers the period from December 2023 to June 2025. Information document 28 also refers to information provided by various organizations and bodies regarding activities carried out under the respective mandates which are relevant to the Convention. Document 21 includes a draft decision on international cooperation and coordination for consideration by COP6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to take interventions now on these 2 documents separately, starting with the cooperation and coordination between the Secretariats of the Minamata Convention and of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions. First, I would now like to call on the Executive Secretary of the BRS Conventions, Mr. Rolf Payet, to present the joint report on cooperation and coordination between these 2 secretariats.
Mr. President, Madam Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to address you today during the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention. In a world where the environmental crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are deeply interconnected, we must advance integrated and mutually supportive solutions. The effective implementation of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions and the Minamata Convention provides key opportunities to tackle the root causes of these interlinked crises. Cooperation and coordination within these conventions, building on their respective mandates and areas of expertise, is vital to achieving faster and greater impact with limited resources, particularly in a context marked by multiple overlapping crises and competing priorities. In light of these considerations, I'm very pleased that the Conference of the Parties to the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, held last May this year in Geneva, reaffirmed the importance of the continued cooperation and coordination with the Minamata Convention on a wide range of issues. Firstly, on programmatic issues such as mercury wastes, financial resources, implementation and compliance, technical assistance and capacity building, including regional centers, chairs and negotiators training, on gender, trade controls, effectiveness evaluation, and global monitoring, as well as, secondly, more operational and administrative issues such as outreach and communication, knowledge and information management, and sharing, as well as purchase of secretariat services. A key area of programmatic cooperation remains to be mercury waste. At the 17th meeting, the Conference of the Parties to the Basel Convention decided to update the technical guidelines on mercury waste to reflect adjustments consequential to the establishment of a mercury threshold for wastes, in accordance with Decision MC5/10, and requested the Secretariat of the Basel Convention to prepare, in cooperation with the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention, draft updated technical guidelines for consideration by the Open-Ended Working Group at its 15th meeting in June 2026, and by the Conference of the Parties to the Basel Convention at its 18th meeting in 2027. The two secretariats also developed capacity-building materials on mercury wastes with the support of Switzerland, which were launched last year. We invite you to join our Knowledge Lab on Mercury Waste Management, jointly organized with the Global Mercury Partnership, this coming Friday, 7th November at 2 p.m. Cooperation is also strengthened on trade control. Firstly, in response to paragraph 12 of Decision MC5/10, the Basel Convention's Implementation and Compliance Committee, as part of its work program for 2026-2027, will carry out a scoping of illegal traffic related to hazardous wastes and other wastes, identifying especially mercury waste, and make recommendations to COP18. Secondly, cooperation is also foreseen to increase on trade in elemental mercury to strengthen the implementation of Article 3 provisions on mercury supply sources and trade, as called for by Decision MC5/2 on mercury supply sources and trade. Looking ahead, new opportunities for cooperation may also arise from the continued engagement in the Joint Task Force on Programmatic Cooperation among UNEP Chemicals and Health Branch and the Secretariats of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, as well as that of the Minamata Convention, from the newly established Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution, as well as the implementation of the Global Framework on Chemicals. Beyond the Chemicals and Waste Cluster, the BRS Secretariat and the Minamata Convention Secretariat cooperate in the context of the UNIA agenda item on cooperation with MEAs. The two secretariats also continue to enhance their cooperation to demonstrate how the conventions contribute to the broader environmental agendas, notably biodiversity, through joint activities, highlighting the co-benefits of implementing the chemicals and waste conventions for achieving the goals and targets of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Lastly, Mr. President, on the sharing and the purchase of Secretariat services, the BRS Secretariat is providing Secretariat services on a cost recovery basis to the Minamata Convention Secretariat for the present 6th meeting of its Conference of the Parties. A total of 9 staff members are providing support services ranging from travel support, IT and registration, to contact group support, document management, and the meeting report. The Minamata Convention Secretariat provided support also to the BRS Secretariat for the organization of its 2025 meetings of the Conference of the Parties. This cooperation has been extremely useful to learn from one another based on our experience and proximity here in Geneva. Details of our cooperative activities and future planned activities for the period 2026-2027 are presented in document INF/29, which provides a stable framework for continued collaboration between our secretariats. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Payet, and thank you to the Secretariat for the long-standing and collegial collaboration between these two entities. So now I will open the floor to hear views on the present document on cooperation and coordination between Minamata and BRS, including comments on the draft decision contained in document 22. The floor is open. No one? Really? So we just adopt the decision in document 22 then? Brazil?
Thank you, President. And our comments go much in line with our previous comments regarding the GBF Kunming-Montreal synergies with Minamata Convention. So we also appreciate the report and welcome the continued coordination between the Minamata and the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions, building on existing synergies and shared priorities in the chemicals and waste cluster. We recognize the value of cooperation in areas such as technical assistance, regional centers, capacity building, information management, and the environmentally sound management of mercury wastes. These efforts strengthen implementation and support developing countries in addressing shared challenges. At the same time, we underline the importance of ensuring that cooperation remains consistent with the mandates approved by parties and preserves the autonomy and governance structures of each convention. Synergies should avoid duplication, remain cost-effective, and not generate additional burdens, including financial or reporting burdens, particularly for developing countries. We support the continued use of cost recovery arrangements subject to available resources and welcome opportunities to enhance cooperations that are party-driven, transparent, and aligned with national priorities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Uganda has the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Uganda welcomes the present note indicating the cooperation between the Minamata Secretariat and the BRS. And our request here as Uganda is that the Secretariat can go far if it is given more financial support. So I call upon all the donors here, the JEF, to enhance the budget of the Secretariat in order to strengthen its collaboration, not only with the BRS, but also with the Rio Convention, so that it can adequately reach out to parties, to their point of needs, and also to help them translate the same cooperation at the national level. I also call upon the UN country teams within the different countries to strengthen the same cooperation, to support the Secretariat in strengthening the same cooperation at the national level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to UNEP.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United Nations Environment Programme appreciates the opportunity to present the contributions supporting the Minamata Convention implementation and its parties, as outlined in the report of Executive Director of UNEP, included in the information.
Excuse me, UNEP. Yeah. UNEP, I think your intervention is for the next sub-item.
Yes. Sorry.
I'm sorry to cut you off. So do we have any more interventions on the cooperation and coordination between Minamata and BRS? Can we adopt the decision in document 22? Seeing no objection, that decision is adopted. We are now moving to the second document under Agenda Item 5, International Cooperation and Coordination. Full stop. Now, I open the floor to hear views on international cooperation and coordination, including the draft decision contained in document 21. Now I invite parties to request the floor. The European Union, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for the report on the activities carried out to cooperate and coordinate with other international entities, particularly in the chemicals and waste cluster. The European Union and its member states place high importance on the coordination and cooperation with other organizations and would like to highlight the proposed partnership with the newly established Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution. We support the draft decision prepared by the Secretariat under this agenda item, but suggest to include language in the draft decision in document 21, paragraph 6, to clarify that the activities of the Secretariat will be carried out subject to the availability of resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The European Union, Canada has the floor.
Thank you, President. We thank the Secretariat and relevant international organizations and intergovernmental and non-governmental bodies for their efforts to collaborate in the promotion and implementation of this convention. We generally welcome the decision text in document 21 and have some minor suggestions to improve the text in paragraphs 3 and 4 of the decision. Primarily, this would be to broaden the groups that could provide input into the proposed scoping study to strengthen the science policy interface. As written, we are concerned that input may be limited only to parties and those who attend the International Conference on Mercury as a Global Pollutant, and this could exclude others who could add value to discussions on the science policy interface. We have some written suggestions that we are happy to share with the Secretariat for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Are they long, the amendments?
No, they're not very long. If you would like for me to read them out, I can do that as well.
Let me go after, and because if it's long as the other ones, then we will produce a new CRP. But if they're not very long, then we'll try to adopt on the fly. Thank you. Brazil?
Mr. President, thank you. We welcome the report and recognize the importance of international cooperation and coordination for the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention with value initiatives that strengthen the science policy interface, promote access to knowledge, and support developing countries in addressing the impacts of mercury pollution, including through cooperation with relevant UN bodies, international scientific processes, and financial mechanisms. Brazil also welcomes the establishment of the new Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution and supports constructive engagement with this mechanism, including observer participation. We recall that the foundational document of the panel identifies consensus building as a guiding principle, ensuring that scientific cooperation is anchored in inclusivity, transparency, and trust among parties. Upholding this principle will be essential as the panel develops in its future programs and modalities. At the same time, we stress that enhanced cooperation must remain voluntary, avoid duplication of efforts, and not create new financial or reporting burdens for parties, particularly developing countries, whose technical teams are already managing significant demands across multiple MEAs. We therefore encourage continued collaboration that is efficient, cost-effective, party-driven, and aligned with national priorities, while safeguarding the autonomy and mandate of the Minamata Convention and ensuring that all cooperative efforts reinforce equity and consensus among parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brazil? Any other party would like to take the floor? I'll give the floor to UNEP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, let's start again. The United Nations Environment Programme appreciates the opportunity to present its contributions supporting the Minamata Convention implementation and its parties, as outlined in the report of the Executive Director of UNEP, included in the information document number 30, Annex 1 on programmatic support. Over the past 2 decades, UNEP has been in the forefront of the global efforts to reduce mercury pollution, driving political momentum, forging impactful partnerships, and advancing science-based solutions across supply chains. The Minamata Convention is not just a treaty. It's a catalyst for sectorial transformation. UNEP is advancing mercury reduction across mining, energy, cosmetic, industry, and health sector by scaling innovation across supply chains and detoxifying production systems. Through inclusive, community-driven approaches, technical expertise, and global partnership, UNEP supports governments and stakeholders in reducing environmental and health burdens from the sectors, while unlocking sustainable, locally anchored change. In artisanal and small-scale gold mining, UNEP support has contributed to the expanding access to finance and international markets, reducing mercury use and improving safety. Similar momentum is evident in other sectors. UNEP-led initiatives have advanced the phase-out of mercury-added products, including cosmetic, medical devices, and dental amalgam. Science and synergies are at the heart of our approach. UNEP supports countries with data, inventories, and action plans, keeping mercury high on the global agenda. We are strengthening links across agendas, from Basel Convention to Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and implementing a $105 million mercury GEF portfolio to deliver on shared targets. Our whole-of-government and whole-of-society strategies ensure that mercury actions is embedded across sectors and institutions. This year also marks 20 years of UNEP's leadership through the Global Mercury Partnership, nearly 300 organizations strong. We look ahead to COP7 in 2027 to reflect on a decade of implementation, spotlight progress, and inspire renewed action. Thank you, Mr. President, and I would like to pass to my colleague for the follow-up intervention.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us the floor, and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On 20 June 2025, in Punta del Este, Uruguay, the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution was established. The objective of the panel is to strengthen the science policy interface to contribute to the sound management of chemicals and waste and pollution prevention. The panel's functions encompass horizon scanning, scientific assessment, providing up-to-date information, facilitating information sharing, and integrating capacity building into all functions and the work of the panel. Their delivery will require sustained commitment, adequate resources, and importantly, continued international cooperation. Countries that were present at the intergovernmental meeting are considered founding members unless they have indicated otherwise, and countries wishing to become a member of the panel are invited to express the same in writing to the interim secretariat. And we encourage all members to nominate their national focal points for the new panel by the 20th of November. Looking ahead, the first plenary session of the panel is scheduled to take place from the 2nd to the 6th of February, hosted by the Government of Switzerland here in Geneva. The session will be preceded by regional, informal and stakeholder meetings on the 1st, and focus on enabling the early operationalization of the panel so that the panel can begin its substantive work. This includes the election of the panel's chair and bureau members, and please note that the deadline for nominations of candidates for the bureau of the panel has been extended to the 21st of November. It's expected that the panel will cooperate and coordinate closely with existing international organizations and instruments, including the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The Convention's technical expertise, institutional experience, and established networks offer invaluable assets that the panel would do well to build upon. And in turn, the panel may be well positioned to strengthen the knowledge base that could underpin future agenda setting, policy formulation, and implementation under the Convention. We stand ready to work with parties and the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention to provide further information about the panel and help explore how cooperation with the panel can support the objectives of the Convention. We look forward to seeing many of you at the first session of the ISP-CWP Plenary in February next year. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to UNEP for the reminder that the next COP actually marks the 10-year anniversary of Minamata, and to the SPP Interim Secretariat. Did you realize that I didn't enforce the 2-minute rule? This is the first time you intervened, so I was very kind to you. Next is the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ongoing human rights violations linked to mercury use and trade persist, threatening a range of human rights. ASGM involving mercury, which often exposes miners and nearby communities directly or indirectly through the food chain, is a common practice in several parties to the Convention. Corruption, trafficking, and organized crime associated with illegal mercury trade poses additional risks. Information sharing, technology transfer, and coordinated action, consistent with the Bali Declaration, are critical to ensure that mercury smugglers are held accountable for serious environmental crimes. Even if all mercury use ceased tomorrow, the health legacy from contaminated sites and food chains will last for decades, and mercury-specific health interventions will remain necessary for the foreseeable future. We therefore recommend that parties consider, 1, formulating regional cooperation programs to curb illegal trade in mercury, 2, identifying measures to develop healthcare services for prevention, early detection, treatment, and care for mercury-exposed populations, especially in and around ASGM sites. Special attention should be given to remote, culturally appropriate healthcare delivery for Indigenous peoples. 3, undertaking an assessment of the human rights impacts of mercury contamination in technical evaluations under the Convention. 4, ensuring the meaningful participation of rights holders, including Indigenous peoples, youth, women, and children. And 5, ensuring that future partnerships, including with the newly established Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste, and Pollution, includes expertise on human rights, particularly in processes related to data collection and policy design. OHCHR remains committed to working with the Secretariat, states, and all stakeholders to advance a human rights-based approach to the elimination of mercury pollution through global coordination, partnerships, and solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is ILO.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you shall allow, I will be making two interventions, first on behalf of ILO and then on behalf of the IOMC Mercury Group. Each will be less than 2 minutes.
Testing my patience. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. First from the ILO. The ILO brings together its 187 member states, workers and employers organizations to advance decent work, safety and health, just transition and social protection, among many other issues that clearly have critical interlinkages with the Minamata Convention. Following recent ILO governing body decisions, the ILO is preparing a standard-setting exercise to update its standards on chemical hazards, including the potential development of a new labor standard complementing ILO Chemicals Convention number 170, which was developed in 1990. This new potential instrument could enhance policy coherence with international treaties that have been adopted since 1990, including the Minamata Convention. In 2026, all ILO constituents will receive a global report as well as a survey that will identify priority issues to include in this new instrument. And if constituents so desire, this may include an explicit reference to the Minamata Convention, further enhancing our long-standing collaboration. Mr. President, the ILO wanted to give this update to further underscore the importance of multi-sectoral collaboration, given that workers around the world continue to be exposed to mercury in various sectors and throughout supply chains. Many of these workers face extreme risks due to conditions of informality and the lack of social protection. The ILO remains available to all to collaborate on issues related to safety and health, as well as broader decent work goals. Thank you, Mr. President. And now I would like to make an intervention on behalf of the IOMC Mercury Group. The IOMC Mercury Group includes IOMC participating organizations, as well as the involvement of the secretariats of the Minamata Convention and the Global Environment Facility. The activities of the IOMC Mercury Group to support implementation of the convention are referred to in INF Document 28 as prepared by the Minamata Convention Secretariat, and for specific participating organizations, including documents prepared by UNEP, BRS, ILO, and WHO. I would like to highlight the cooperation and coordination among the members of the Mercury Group representing a variety of sectors in implementing key activities to support the convention. Since COP5, the IOMC Mercury Group has convened 2 in-depth discussions during technical sessions on waste and biomonitoring and health surveillance, building on previous sessions covering ASGM, trade, emissions, and releases. The challenges of addressing mercury require multi-sectoral collaboration at country level. The IOMC therefore plays a crucial role in coordinating technical support to countries from the IOMC organizations, which bring a range of sectoral expertise. Major highlights of this are the continuing Planet Gold programs, funded by the GEF, led by UNEP, and implemented collaboratively with UNDP, UNIDO, and other partners, as well as the new GEF Gemini initiative with UNIDO, UNDP, and UNEP. IOMC participating organizations have worked with countries and stakeholders in a wide range of projects, and we will continue our efforts. Lastly, I would like to highlight that we understand that consideration will be given to possible membership of the Minamata Convention in the IOMC during this COP, and we stand ready to provide any information that may be helpful if considered appropriate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The Global Framework on Chemicals.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Secretariat of the Global Framework on Chemicals for a Planet Free of Harm from Chemicals and Waste commends the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention for its continued leadership in advancing global action on mercury. The Global Framework on Chemicals, adopted in 2023, provides a voluntary, multi-stakeholder, and multi-sectoral platform to strengthen the safe and sustainable management of chemicals and waste. It sets out 5 strategic objectives and 28 targets and is supported by the Global Framework on Chemicals Fund to facilitate implementation. To advance these commitments, the framework convened its first open-ended working group meeting in June 2025, where stakeholders met in preparation for the first international conference in November 2026. As the framework moves into implementation, 3 areas of convergence with the Minamata Convention could deliver tangible benefits to countries. First, on capacity building and technical assistance, the framework can draw on convention's experience with a specific international program to strengthen institutional capacity in countries. Second, on supply chains and product life cycles, there is scope to share data, tools, and best practices, especially in healthcare, electronics, and artisanal and small-scale gold mining, where mercury management intersects with broader chemical challenges. Third, on communication and knowledge exchange, the framework's multi-sectoral engagement offers opportunities to amplify the Convention's messages and to promote knowledge exchange. The Global Framework on Chemicals Secretariat remains committed to close collaboration with the Minamata Convention and other chemicals and waste instruments to promote coherence, share lessons, and support national implementation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, GFC. Now, Interpol has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Interpol, for the first time, joins Minamata Convention on Mercury COP as observer, so we are a newcomer. Interpol recognized the serious threat that the illegal trade in mercury poses to the public health and security. Mercury pollution undermines global health and environment. Beyond its toxic effects, illicit mercury trade also fuels criminal markets, driving unsafe mining practices, environmental degradation, and exploitation of vulnerable communities. As the world's only global police organization, Interpol can play a key role in translating international commitments into concrete actions by law enforcement on the ground. We do so by facilitating information exchange between our 196 member countries through our secure communication network. This communication system can connect frontline officers, customs officials, environmental investigators, and prosecutors in real time to act collectively against the illegal trade in mercury, exchanging sensitive and irrelevant information to prosecute and dismantle criminal supply chains. Interpol can also disseminate global alerts in the form of the Color Notice, enabling countries to identify high-risk shipments, trace supply chains, identify new modus operandi, and act quickly when violation of international commitments occur. Furthermore, Interpol is able to coordinate operations at national, regional, or global scale with the final aim to dismantle criminal networks and can provide capacity-building support to member countries in order to strengthen their monitoring, inspection, and enforcement system. Looking ahead, Interpol aims to reinforce our partnership with multilateral environmental agreements, including Minamata Convention, by aligning and scaling up our efforts, strengthen operational support and training where law enforcement capacity gaps exist, and act against the financial and organized crime dimension of mercury trafficking, from false documentation to corruption and money laundering. Excellencies, if we are to protect our planet from mercury, we must consider the illegal trade in mercury not only as an environmental or health concern, but as a criminal threat. As a trusted partner of the United Nations, Interpol stands ready to work together with the Minamata Secretariat, its parties, the other international organizations, the NGOs, and any other stakeholder that is willing to fight against illicit flows in mercury. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias. Shukran.
Well, thank you very much, Interpol. And welcome to the Minamata COP for the first time. Now we have the Environmental International Agency.
Thank you, Mr. President. We wish to commend the work done by the Secretariat regarding international cooperation and coordination. As repeatedly highlighted by multiple parties in their intervention on trade and supply sources and on ASGM, as noted as well by the Implementation Compliance Committee, illegal trade and trafficking in elemental mercury and mercury compounds represent a growing challenge for the effective implementation of this convention. For this reason, and with the aim of strengthening the implementation of the Bali Declaration on combating illegal trade in mercury, we would like to invite parties to consider requesting the Secretariat to establish cooperation and coordination with the Financial Action Task Force, with Interpol, with the World Customs Organization and the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, by adding appropriate language to the draft decision contained in document 21. Thank you.
Thank you very much. EIA, Children and Youth.
Thank you for the floor. My name is Praise Syal and I'm from Pakistan, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Chemicals and the Waste Youth Platform and the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. First, we strongly support further cooperation and coordination between the Minamata Convention Secretariat and other international and regional instruments and the bodies, now including the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and the Pollution. We, including the Intergovernmental Policy, suggest a synchronous dialogue between the MES as well as the broader international instruments, including the Global Frameworks on Chemicals and SPPP on hosted 8 COP7. As was convened at the recent BRS COPs to provide a regular space to identify a shared priorities. Second, we like to see the Minamata Convention Secretariat coordinate closely with the UN Environmental Management Group, including on the UN Common Approach to pollution and in the regulators' synchronous dialogue that the EMG convenes. The EMG is believed as critically underutilized support system for the international instrument on the environment and the broader UN system entities to find the points of collaboration, especially on the implementation, monitoring, and financing. We reflect on the larger budget crisis the UN system is also under, which demand urgent political and financial commitments. However, against this backdrop, doesn't it make even more sense to find a collaborative activities across a climate change, biodiversity, and chemicals and waste MES, as well as the other frameworks that can deliver a core benefits. Third, we can also strongly support the coordination between the Secretariat and UNICEF and the joint publications on the risk of mercury to children and encourage further activities focused on mainstreaming children's environmental health in the convention, together with UNICEF and the Children and Youth constituency. Fourth, and finally, it is a long overdue that the chemicals, waste, and the pollution receives a more visibility and mainstream across the UN system. The Youth constituency has already been taking it upon ourselves to make these connections, including proposing to a member state to include language on the sound management of chemicals in the Pact for the Future, which did not have a reference in the original zero draft and a first revision. This language was adopted in the Pact in September 2024. Our work within the Minamata Convention on Mercury need to look outside of just itself and the chemicals and waste cluster and promotes the convention's objectives, where there is opportunity to do so to the new listening ears and the central and cross-cutting processes like the UN General Assembly, high-level political forums, and in the Pact for the Future implementations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Children and Youth. We heard two amendments to the decision in document 21. The first one was an amendment that was proposed by the European Union, which is to include subject to the availability of resources, And then we also heard Canada to announce that they had some amendments. So Canada, I think it is appropriate to give the floor to you once again in order to highlight where those amendments are going to take place, in which paragraphs of the draft decision. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. President. So firstly, paragraph 3 of the draft decision, we would propose to delete "and in collaboration with." And so after the phrase "with input from parties," we would add, comma, indigenous peoples, comma, scientists and other relevant stakeholders, comma, as well as experts who collaborate at. And so to be clear, that last half of the sentence would read, with input from parties, indigenous peoples, scientists and other relevant stakeholders, as well as experts who collaborate at the International Conference of Mercury as a global pollutant for consideration by the Conference of the Parties at its 7th meeting. And the reason that we are suggesting this is to broaden the scope of experts from whom the Secretariat can seek input. In addition, it would seem odd to collaborate with an international conference itself. Instead, you would want to collaborate with the experts who participate in that conference. The second minor amendment is in paragraph 4. So instead of mutual support, we would change that to mutual benefits. And the reason for this is that activities do not provide mutual support to the implementation of the convention and the GFC, but activities can provide mutual benefits. Those are the only changes we propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Canada. Let's see if we can adopt this decision in document 21. So the first paragraph that we want to test is paragraph 3. And paragraph 3, as amended, will read, requests the Secretariat to conduct, subject to the availability of resources, scoping study on possible areas where the strengthening of the science policy interface would advance implementation of the Convention with input from parties, indigenous peoples, scientists, and other relevant stakeholders, as well as experts, to collaborate at the International Conference on Mercury as a global pollutant for consideration by the Conference of the Parties at its 7th meeting. Guinea, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, President. Well, we don't want to put any obstacles in the way of this. I wonder, though, if we couldn't possibly reword this by saying that 100% application is subject to reservation. If we say something like that, we're afraid that we might be putting obstacles in the way of carrying these activities out. Thank you.
Guinea, can you repeat your intervention? I will try to listen into the original language because I didn't get the interpretation into English. Can you go ahead once again?
Oui. Yes, Chairman, certainly. My delegation thinks that if we have this issue of subject to the availability of resources, we might, in saying that, be putting an obstacle in the way of carrying out the activities concerned. So to avoid doing that, To avoid creating that obstacle, we prefer this to be worded a slightly different way. We wouldn't have the reference subject to, even if we implemented 25%, 50%, well, that would be something. But if we start saying immediately subject to the availability of resources, then that is likely to end up doing 0%. That's our fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Guinea. I would request to you if you can send that paragraph to the Secretariat so we can take a look at. How do you want to amend paragraph 3? And while you do that, I will give the floor to Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, my delegation wishes to comment to the proposal from our colleague from Canada regarding the insertion of indigenous people and other references. Actually, we are quite flexible on the proposal as long as it is also put the reference of local communities after the indigenous people. So it should be stated indigenous people and local communities, and the rest we can flexible with the proposal from the Canadian delegation. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Indonesia. Okay. Let's go to paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 has only one amendment, which is the replacement of the word support for the word benefit. So paragraph 4 in the first line would say, welcomes the proposal for activities that provide mutual benefits to the implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and the Global Framework on Chemicals. Can we accept that amendment? I see no objection. And then we go to the amendment proposed by the European Union on paragraph 6, which is to include this phrase, subject to the availability of resources. So now paragraph 6 will read, requests the Secretariat, subject to the availability of resources, to continue cooperation and coordination with the Global Mercury Partnership, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, etc., etc. Can we agree to the paragraph as amended? Thank you very much. So I will wait for a couple of minutes to get the paragraph proposed by Guinea. In the interest of time, I would like to test if it is acceptable to the proponent as well as to the plenary that we include after indigenous peoples and local communities. Canada has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Respectfully, we would not agree to write indigenous peoples and local communities because indigenous peoples are rights holders, they are not stakeholders like local communities. If it must be done, we would say indigenous peoples, comma, scientists and other relevant stakeholders, comma, such as local communities, comma, as well as experts who collaborate at.
Thank you very much. So I will give back the floor to Indonesia and then the plenary if we can accept this new proposal for OP3. Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you also for the response from our colleague from the Canadian delegation regarding that. Well, actually, for that, we respectfully we cannot accept the proposal. But if the indigenous people, if the local community is put after the indigenous people, with the addition of as well as indigenous people right after the as well as local communities right after the indigenous people, we are acceptable to that. Just bear in mind that in the previous documents we also put local communities right after the indigenous people, so we would like to refer to that document. Thank you.
So we will park right here in order to get the right drafting, unless Indonesia is willing to repeat again exactly how the paragraph is going to read. Or otherwise we will just park and reconvene at a later time after I have a little discussion with Canada, Indonesia, and Guinea. Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So our proposal, just right after the indigenous people, we put as well as local communities, and then the rest we can follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's test the water for the last time. Canada.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we will need some time to talk about this because from our point of view, relevant stakeholders is already within the list and local communities are part of the relevant stakeholders. We would not be comfortable at this point to say indigenous peoples as well as local communities and then repeat later on other relevant stakeholders. I would like to have discussions with colleagues on this overnight. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. So we will have discussions on paragraph 3 with Canada and Indonesia. I will try to facilitate that conversation, and then we will bring once again paragraph 3 as the only outstanding paragraph in this draft decision. So are you comfortable with that way forward? Uganda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm requesting the floor as the chair of the Partnership Advisory Group under the UNEP Global Mercury Partnership, and not as Uganda. Thank you. If you allow me, I will continue. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to report to the 6th Conference of the Parties on the work of the Global Mercury Partnership and its advisory group, as outlined in the report on activities.
Excuse me, Uganda.
Yes,
I will give you the floor, but you're speaking on a different topic. Let me close the conversation on this particular decision in document 21, and then I will give you the floor. So I express my wish for a way forward on paragraph 3 of draft decision in document 21. So I'll pose the question again. Is this agreeable to the plenary? So this is going to be the path forward. Tomorrow morning, we will come back to you with some news on this specific paragraph of the draft decision contained in document 21. And now, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to report to the 6th Conference of the Parties on the work of the Global Mercury Partnership and its advisory group, as outlined in the report on activities undertaken within the Global Mercury Partnership of the United Nations Environment Programme, included in the information document, UNEP/MC/COP6/INF/33. Mr. President, since COP5, the Partnership Advisory Group met twice in December 2023 and December 2024. At this point, I would like to express on behalf of the partnership a deep appreciation to Mr. Rogers Ankara of the United States Environment Protection Agency, with whom I have had the pleasure to co-chair the Partnership Advisory Group until Purge 15. This year, we are proudly to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the partnership as enduring and transformative force in the global effort to make Mercury history and advance the implementation of the Minamata Convention. Far more than a platform, the partnership has become a catalyst for action, mobilizing scientific knowledge, policy expertise, and collective action to confront the urgent challenge of mercury pollution. Today, Mr. President, this coalition brings together close to 300 dedicated organizations and experts, including governments, intergovernmental organizations, non-governmental entities, industry, leaders, and members of the scientific community. Each contributes their insight, their commitment, and their expertise to a shared vision, protecting human health and the environment from the harmful effects of mercury. The partnership is evolving to better serve its mission, enhancing its structure and engagement model to more effectively address the environmental and health impacts of mercury and its compounds. A new soft membership approach, Mr. President, is being introduced, allowing stakeholders to contribute flexibly across both areas of expertise and emerging interests. The partnership derives data and knowledge sharing across key sectors like mining, energy, cosmetics, and healthcare, while linking to broader themes such as biodiversity. It fosters collaboration and dialogue on complex issues, including waste and mercury emissions from oil and gas and non-ferrous metal mining. Notably, Mr. President, most recently the partnership helped build political momentum and mobilize resources to tackle mercury in cosmetics, contributing to the Libreville commitment and a United States $15 million JEF-funded initiative to eliminate mercury from cosmetics across 13 African countries without mentioning the previous achievements, similar ones. On behalf of the Partnership Advisory Group and the Secretariat, we wish to extend our sincere thanks to Ms. Monica Stankwich and the Minamata Convention Secretariat for their valuable contributions and continued collaboration in the partnership. The partnership remains ready to support the Convention's agenda and welcomes guidance on areas where it can contribute. We are also available to all delegates interested in learning more or joining the Global Mercury Partnership. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that information. So as I said, we're going to go back to that draft decision. So if we can meet right after the end of plenary, that would be good. Yeah, I hope Canada is listening to me. We're going to go now back to a CRP that was uploaded in languages this afternoon. This is the CRP 8 that was submitted by Brazil. So first, I would like to give the floor to Brazil to introduce CRP 8 so we can adopt that CRP. João.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us the floor. As we mentioned earlier, the small group on financing yesterday, after a meeting, its third meeting, was able to finish the CRP on the financial mechanism. We believe it was a very successful effort. We were able to reflect the positions, the interventions made here in plenary during the introduction of this agenda item. We submitted it to the Secretariat, which made a very good job of clearance. And we believe this CRP that's now available in the in-session documents session is pretty much the same in substance as the text we have submitted to the Secretariat for clearance. And we are very happy with the possibility of approving it now here in plenary. And we would also like to thank you, Mr. President, for your confidence in the work of this group. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a usted y no solo el.
Thank you to Brazil. Thank you for having led this group, and thank you also to the European Union, which I believe cooperated with and supported you in this negotiation. Any further comments or reaction from a state party? As I said, this conference room paper, CRP 8, can be found on the website in the official languages. If nobody has anything further to say on it, I would suggest that we move to adoption of CRP 8. The CRP is in decision-making mode.
CRP 8. So the decision contained in CRP 8 is adopted. Thank you. We're trying to deal with all the pending issues we have, so we're So we try to close down all these agenda items as soon as possible. So I would like to open the agenda item once again on supply sources and trade. I would like to recall that I requested two parties who expressed comments to the main body of the draft decision in Annex 1 of Document 5, as well as to the proposed updates to the guidance on supply sources and stock and to the guidance on trade forms to submit their comments in writing to the Secretariat. The Secretariat received comments from the EU and the USA, and also from Switzerland. Some of these comments are not compatible and therefore cannot be easily reflected by the Secretariat in the revised draft decision. So the proposal is to request these parties that I mentioned to consult among themselves and provide to the Chair consolidated comments. I would encourage you to do it at the end of the day, and you can come back to me. I am sure you have my contact details to see if we can get to a simple solution. If this cannot be done and we cannot consolidate those proposals, then we will resort to a different scenario. But as of now, my encouragement is to the EU, the USA, and Switzerland to try to consolidate one single text. Now, that concludes the issue on the supply sources and trade. Now, on the group of parties that have been working on compounds. My request is to Canada if they have any updates to the work that you've been doing. Canada, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Australia, Canada, Japan, and Norway are very pleased to announce that we believe we have reached agreement with the parties who had expressed views yesterday on the draft CRP, and we have provided a revised version to the Secretariat this afternoon that I hope can be presented for adoption tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alison, for all the work, and to other co-sponsors as well. Just checking with the Secretariat if they have received the document you submitted, and they say they have the document, so it will be uploaded as a new CRP or as an updated CRP. Yes, we have Eva now. So Eva has been facilitating the Friends of the President's group on legal matters. So I would invite you to take the floor to provide us an update on the work of the group.
The Friends met for the second time from 1 to 3 this afternoon. Overnight, the Secretariat had prepared a draft text to assist the group in its deliberations. The group worked on the Secretariat's draft, and I am pleased to inform you that it was able to agree on the key elements. The group developed almost clean text, with one paragraph remaining in brackets, pending consultations within the regional groups. The draft text has been posted. The members of the group will report back to me as a facilitator and the secretariat after regional meeting in the morning. I'm optimistic that the group will require only a short time to finalize its work tomorrow. I thank the participants of the group for their constructive and active participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have mostly good news. So for this evening, we have a small group on indigenous peoples that is going to meet at 6 o'clock for 2 hours in room 9, that is the bureau room in the second floor. And we have one contact group on ASGM that would meet following the other group from 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. in room B. So my personal request to the all of groups and these parties and facilitators that are leading consultations to kindly keep me informed as we can be well prepared before plenary tomorrow morning, as we are closing down on many of the agenda items during this COP. Do we have any housekeeping information? So we will have the logistical information provided by the Secretary, and then we will conclude the plenary this evening.
The contact group on technical matters will meet in room A from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The contact group on ASGM will meet in room B from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Consultations on Indigenous peoples will be meeting in room 9 from 6 p.m., so now to 8 p.m. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Thank you very much to all of you for your patience. I think we have been making good progress. We are finishing day 3, and we're closing down on many issues. Thank you so much for your efficiency, for your effectiveness, and also for your patience and collaboration. Good evening, and see you tomorrow at 10 a.m.